What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we're going to talk a lot about basketball today. So, the NBA Finals wrapped up Sunday night with the Cavs coming back from 3-1 to win the title. LeBron brings the first basketball title to Cleveland, first title in any major sport in over 50 years. So, he's been re-anointed as the king of Cleveland. People who took that title away probably didn't know much about basketball to begin with, so that was really all that happened this week, and that's where we're going to start talking about the NBA Finals a little bit. Then after we talk about that, we're going to break down the NBA draft and do a quick little lottery mock draft just because that's going to be on Thursday this week. So we'll start by letting Jonah talk a little bit about the Finals.
Yeah, so there's so many storylines at this Finals. There are so many important things to take away. This was really Game 7 in particular is one of the probably one of the most significant sporting events that any of us have witnessed in our lifetimes. Not to exaggerate too much, but there were so many historical implications in terms of legacy of LeBron, the legacy of this Warriors team, and I think more than anything else, it really reinforced just how dominant LeBron James is and how lucky we are to see him. And I think it really pushed him into the players all time for me.
Yeah, one of the easiest comments to make is that of Jonah and I's generation, LeBron will be the best player ever. I have no doubt in my mind about that. That we've seen. I know we didn't really. Michael was in his prime when we were just being born, so we didn't get to see a lot of Michael. Obviously, we can see videos and stuff. But of players that Jonah and I and our generation have grown up to watch and will continue to watch, there's no doubt in my mind LeBron will be by far the best player we will ever see.
Yeah, right. And I think I don't know, my other reaction was focused on we're gloating about how the Warriors lost because they really went from everyone's heroes to everyone's villains so fast.
Yeah, really fast.
How fast that happened. But I think obviously all credit to the Warriors. They had a historic season that we're never going to forget. These guys are going to be around for a while. I mean, they really revolutionized basketball, and they'll be back. This isn't the end of the Warriors.
Oh, no way.
I think the focus should really be on Cleveland here, and just what they accomplished is unreal. And it was really emotional for everybody involved. I mean, you saw Ty Lue just crying on the bench as the game was ending. You saw KRC crying at his press conference. You saw LeBron. It was a really emotional night for everybody. And I think that's due to a lot of things. It's due to just sort of the adversity that this Cleveland team overcame, the adversity that the city of Cleveland has overcome over the last, 52 years. They never won a title. And I think it was just a great moment. All basketball aside, it was really awesome to witness that.
Yeah. I'm actually, when you were saying that, it kind of got me thinking. I'm actually nervous and afraid of what LeBron James could do next because this was such a big weight off his shoulders winning this title for Cleveland. I mean, he came into the league at the age of 19, 18, tried to do this the entire time, couldn't get it done, was close all the time, couldn't get it done, left, went to Miami, won 2 out of 4, and came back, but still had that same weight on his shoulders because he knew he needed to get one for Cleveland, and he finally does. So now that he's literally playing for not nothing, but he doesn't have any pressure to do anything special from now on out, and I'm just nervous to see what he could possibly do with that.
The only thing ahead of him now is if he wants to become the best player ever. That's the only thing that he hasn't done.
Right.
And if he really decides that he's going to go get that, he's gotten everything else he's gone for. So
and I mean, I'm not the craziest Michael fan, but Michael Jordan was probably he was the best offensive player, no doubt, in terms of killer instinct kind of deal, better than Kobe, and Kobe is one of the best we've ever seen. So he has that. He's a pretty solid on-ball defender, but basketball is more than just score and defend. It's, the way that LeBron passes, the way that he always leads his team in the biggest moments. He's averaging 34 points a game in closeout games in the playoffs. That's better than Michael Jordan. That's better than anyone else ever in the NBA. And people say he's not clutch, but that's pretty clutch if you ask me. The best way to show that you're clutch is to be at your best when it matters most, which is what he is. Sometimes, the last 10 seconds he's not going to take a shot or he's going to miss a shot or something, but that's because he's not a true scorer. He's a basketball player. He makes plays for other people, which is exactly what you want a basketball player to do. So if you add passing ability, scoring, which he averaged he had back-to-back 41-point games in the finals against a team that's very good defensively. So you had scoring ability, passing ability. The way he defends, his block against Iguodala was probably the best block I've ever seen in my entire life. That was just insane. And then just add overall basketball IQ and all the intangibles and everything. I think LeBron's the best. If you put all that together, he's the best ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, I think that the series as a whole is going to be remembered as being a lot better than it was. It could go to 7 games, but no game went down to the last minute until Game 7. So it wasn't a series full of great games, but it was a great series anyway, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it's because of just witnessing greatness from LeBron, like you were just talking about, just how complete a player he was, and that was really on display during the series. And we saw great play from not just him. I mean, Draymond Green was amazing in Game 7.
He was incredible. He was the best he's been ever, probably, Game 7.
Right. If the Warriors had pulled that game out, we'd be talking about that instead.
Absolutely.
And I think even though we didn't see a lot of, really awesome basketball games, we saw awesome basketball players. And I think that's what makes this series special more than any specific game.
Right. I think it was so special because we were sitting there just waiting for Steph to take over, or waiting for Clay, or waiting for LeBron, or waiting for Kyrie. And, no matter what was happening in the game, you knew there could be, a quick 3 minutes where some player just absolutely dominates. And, when you have that much star power and that much ability on one court, something bound to happen that's going to excite you. So even though there were 30-point blowouts, it was still fun to watch at all times just because each team is so skilled. And, I mean, the Warriors have the 2 best shooters ever in the game. The Cavs have possibly the best player ever, and Kyrie Irving might be one of the most underrated guards ever. People don't even talk about him when they talk about top 5. He might be a top 2 point guard the way he plays.
That's his story also. He really established himself as, a transcendent offensive point guard. I still don't really think he can guard anyone, but, but that doesn't take away from how great a player he is, and he really showed just how good an offensive player he was, with that dagger 3 in Game 7, it wasn't LeBron taking that shot, it was Kyrie.
Right, and if you notice, LeBron passed him the ball and moved right out of the way and basically said, go have it, go get this win. And that's what he did all series long. Every fourth quarter, Kyrie took over pretty much. I mean, LeBron had Game 5, starting out down 3-1, Game 5, LeBron has 41. Game 6, LeBron has 41. Now they tie the series at 3-3, and LeBron goes out and gets a triple-double. So obviously LeBron was absolutely incredible, probably perfect if you really could even say that. And he still needed Kyrie every step of the way. Kyrie matched him for 41 in Game 5, which was just a little bit insane. Played great Game 6, had 20 points in the first quarter in Game 6, which helped him out big time, and then hit the game winner in Game 7. So I don't think, I told Jonah this pretty much all series long, but I don't think either player could win this series without the other.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, obviously, it was a fully deserved Finals MVP for LeBron. I mean, he led the series in every major statistical category. I think it was points, rebounds, assists, block steals, field goal percentage. He was the series leader in all of those things. So it was really what we've come to expect from LeBron, but I think we've kind of taken it for granted in the past, and I think as a whole people didn't take it for granted this time. People were like, wow, this is just an amazing LeBron performance. He really willed the Cavs to this win because, he promised the title to Cleveland. He couldn't deliver last year, and he was not going to go home without it.
Yeah, and like you said, LeBron is insanely deserving of the MVP, but I think it's a low blow to Kyrie, kind of, that LeBron was unanimous MVP, that, no one even thought about Kyrie, that he could have been the most valuable. And yes, LeBron James, you take him off that team, like we've seen in the past, they're the worst team in the NBA. But if you take Kyrie off the team, they don't win the title just like last year. So it goes hand in hand, and Kyrie Irving hit shot after shot after shot after shot after shot every single time that there was a swing in momentum where, like, the Warriors went up 6, I think, and Kyrie came right down, went right to the hoop and scored. Like, every time the crowd got into it, Kyrie had the ball in his hands and made a play. And LeBron knows that Kyrie's going to do that, and you can almost see LeBron take a little bit of a back seat when it gets to that because he knows Kyrie's going to go do his thing. And I don't think there's a player, other than probably Klay Thompson in the NBA, that when they see the ball go through the hoop, no matter how it goes through the hoop, they're on fire like Kyrie Irving is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I think it's also a testament to how star players can really still carry you in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, because we didn't see a ton from the rest of the Cleveland pieces. Like, there were definitely important contributions, no doubt, but LeBron really won this series. I mean, they combined for 82 points in Game 5, and they were really the engine driving this team. Like, there were definitely contributions to other people, J.R. Smith included, but it was really mostly those guys.
Right, and then people would say that the Warriors lost because they didn't have that star power that they needed from their stars. So that works exactly to what you're saying also.
Yeah, I mean, I think this instance with the Warriors anyway, of mostly, I think they were kind of worn down. Like, they made a conscious decision they were going to go for win the record. If they hadn't made that decision, you might have seen them rest guys throughout the season strategically, like the Spurs always do. And they might not have been as tired in the playoffs. I mean, I think what the result of the series kind of does is it really cements the status of those Jordan Bull teams as the best teams ever. But I don't think that Game 7 had as big an impact on that as people were saying. I don't think the Warriors would have been better than those teams anyway. Like, because I don't know, even if they had won Game 7, they would have lost 9 playoff games, which is as many games they lost in the regular season. Well, you have to take that into account also.
Which also shows you how good they were in the regular season.
Right, exactly.
But 2 things that we didn't talk about that I just want to touch on briefly, and then we'll go to the NBA draft. But the Cleveland Cavaliers played probably the best defense that anyone could ever play on Steph and Klay. Obviously, those guys are going to get open from time to time. You can't physically just stay in their pocket for 48 minutes a night. But I've never seen those 2 guys be so frustrated that they couldn't get open to catch the ball. And those are 2 players that even if you're guarding them, they're still usually open. And that wasn't the case in this series. So that was huge for the Cavs. I would say the defense won the Cavs the championship more than I would say that LeBron and Kyrie. I mean, they obviously needed that, but it wasn't LeBron and Kyrie just outscoring the Warriors. It was them scoring a good amount and playing amazing defense. And then the last thing is everyone bashed Kevin Love for all series long. In Game 7, the kid came out and had 15 rebounds and 8 offensive rebounds to go along with 9 points and probably had his best effort that I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah, he probably got kicked around a little bit undeservedly. I mean, he didn't fit in that system. There's
right.
No way around. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team next year, but he is far from finished as an NBA player. Like, he is. I expect he'll be somewhere else next year, most likely, but I expect him to succeed.
Yeah, I was thinking if Boston goes after him, I think that's a good fit. I'd even
fit anybody in a system.
Yeah, if you could have put Kevin Love on the second unit and just had him like strictly be a bench player, right. Kind of like almost like Iguodala. No, not really. Almost like Jamal Crawford for the Clippers, like come in and score. It's kind of like that. If you could have done that for the Cavs, it would have been much better for him.
But people forget how good a rebounder he is. I mean,
right.
Just putting up 20-20s very regularly.
And it's hard to be a great rebounder when you have a great rebounder next to you. Like Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love, you can't both have 20 rebounds. Like one's going to have 25 or 20 and the other one's going to have like 6 or 7. You can't share a rebound.
Right, exactly.
So it takes his numbers down because Tristan Thompson is so good and so is Kevin Love. But so finals wrapped up. Cavs came back from 3-1. LeBron James cements his legacy as LeGoat, as people have been saying recently. And it was a lot of fun to watch. I really wouldn't be surprised to see both those teams back next year for more fun, but there's a lot of teams that are going to be competing for that also. And I think the NBA is going to continue to get better and better because everybody's in their prime right now, it seems like.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch. I fully expect next season to be as good as this one was. This is a great time to be a basketball fan.
Yeah, probably better, if anything. With all this money floating around, teams are going to get better and better.
Right, exactly. And we got some exciting new players coming into the league.
Which will bring us right to the NBA draft. So we're going to do this like we did the NFL draft, where Jonah will pick one, I'll pick the next, and then just keep going on and on. So basically we're going to take the role of the GM of these teams, which Jonah and I pretty much think we should be anyways, so like it works out pretty nice. So Jonah's going to go with the odd numbers, starting with the Sixers in the first pick in the draft, then I'll do the Lakers at number 2, and so on and so forth. So Jonah, you got the floor.
Alright, so for the Philadelphia 76ers, this pick has already kind of been leaked. There's been word coming over the wire today that the 76ers have informed Ben Simmons that he will be the first pick in the draft on Thursday. So I'm going to stick to that and pick Ben Simmons. He's the guy who I've gone back and forth on a lot. I think a lot of people have also gone back and forth on him a lot. I think he fits the Sixers team philosophy of picking the guy with the highest ceiling, which I think he probably has the highest ceiling because if he can get himself a jump shot, then he'll be pretty much completely unstoppable. I mean, he averaged 19 and 12 at LSU last year, along with 5 assists per game at 6'10". So this is like just a guy with so many talents. He can do so many things on the floor. The problem is he can do everything except have a jump shot. And we know that that's teachable. I mean, Anthony Davis really developed a jump shot when he didn't have one so much. Like, we know that that's doable. If he can be put in the gym and just take 1,000 jump shots a day until he improves it, it doesn't work for everybody, but with a guy as talented as him, I believe it can work. And I think his ceiling is high. I think his floor is also pretty high. I think that it's possible he won't be a superstar. There's no guarantee of that, but I think I think even if he doesn't develop a better jump shot, he's going to be a very solid starter in the NBA for a long time. And the Sixers need guys like that. Like they've been a team with basically no talent for years now, and they need somebody like Ben Simmons. They finally won a lottery, and I think Ben Simmons is probably the right pick here. I know Zach likes Brandon Ingram a little bit more.
A bit more.
And I wouldn't argue with that pick necessarily, but I'm going to go with Ben Simmons at number 1.
So 2 points I have to touch on that you just said. His work to get a jump shot in the NBA like Anthony Davis, I do think that's possible, but I think this difference is Anthony Davis has a motor that's like no other, and Ben Simmons has shown zero resemblance of any motor whatsoever, so that worries me. And then the other thing, I forgot what the other thing was. That was the main point though, that I don't trust his motor at all, and that's what separates him from Brandon Ingram with me, because I think Brandon Ingram has that killer instinct, which leads me to Brandon Ingram to the Lakers at number 2, which I think is a great pick for the Lakers. Yes, Ben Simmons is going to be good for a long time. I agree with that completely, because he's just so good with the ball, and he's a passer. He can score inside, good rebounder, and he has an NBA body to begin with, so they got a lot to start with there. But Brandon Ingram is the guy that basically was the go-to at Duke for all year long. I know Grayson Allen led the team in scoring, but Brandon Ingram was the guy that got the ball in crunch time and generally answered. He's got a Kevin Durant type body, which I like a lot. He's 6'9", 196, so he needs to put a lot of weight on. But he's lanky and finishes at the rim pretty well. He's also got a great mid-range game that I like a lot. Obviously, I watched a lot of his games, probably all of his games, and I really didn't see anything he didn't do well. He struggled early on in the year And then once Emile Jefferson went down, he moved to the 4, and that's when he really took over, just because he could use his quickness advantage on most of those big guys. So obviously that won't happen in the NBA, because he's probably going to play mostly the 3. But I still like him a lot. I think he's got a great game for the NBA, and I expect him to be a superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the past and now, I'm not as high Brandon Ingram as you are. I do think that he's going to be a very good player. And I know, like, obviously now he's really skinny. Like, he has probably, like, 20 pounds on me, and he has, like, 14 inches on me. So, he has some weight to put on, but that's obviously something that's doable. Like, that will come with age. He's still only 18, somehow. So, he's going to develop more.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is, there have been Kevin Durant comparisons thrown around. I think that's a little ambitious. I see where they're coming from. Like, he has that quality of, like, just being, like, arms everywhere and being all over the court. Like, he's one spot making a pass, and then you blink, and he's in another spot getting it for a give and go, and just, I don't know, making a jump shot. Like, he can do a lot of things. But I don't know, he doesn't strike me as being the kind of killer that Durant is. And obviously Ben Simmons doesn't have that quality either. But I think Ben Simmons has such a high floor because he is like an absolute physical specimen, and Ingram really isn't, at least right now. So I think that Ingram is, I don't know, he's not really portrayed this way by most people, but I feel like Ingram's almost a higher risk pick than Simmons.
I think Ingram, I don't think he'll ever get to Kevin Durant, just because he's never going to have that silky of a jump shot as Kevin Durant. He won't ever be that smooth. His jump shot mechanically isn't great, but he knows how to use it, and he shot pretty well from Duke at Duke. But so did Justice Winslow last year, and he's struggled this year because they try to change his jumper a little bit. So there could definitely be some growing pains for Brandon Ingram. But I think that the game that he has allows him to be better than Ben Simmons early on, and also gives him the potential to become that superstar, where Ben Simmons is going to take a lot of work to become a superstar. And Ben Simmons obviously has more tools with a better passing ability, better body even, more athletic than Brandon Ingram. But I think Ingram has the desire to want to be better, and I also think the fit that he would be with in LA would be way better than Ben Simmons in Philly. I mean, if you think of him with D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, Larry Nance Jr., like, that's a pretty solid core of young guys.
Yeah, I think the main difference, which you kind of touched on, is like Ben Simmons needs to work really hard at one thing. Brandon Ingram needs to work a little bit at a lot of things.
Right.
And it's just a question of which one you believe is more likely to occur, and that will determine who you'd have number one and who you'd have number two, I think.
And either way, I don't think there's really a wrong decision, because these are clear-cut two best players in this draft, and it's really not even close. Like, they're probably 1A, 1B, and then there's like 5, 6 after that. Like, there's nobody's even number 2. It's not really that close at all.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so let's go to the Celtics at 3, and Jonah, that's your pick.
Yeah, so for the Celtics at number 3, this pick coming from Brooklyn.
Shocker.
I'm gonna take Jamal Murray here.
Yes.
I think he's a perfect fit for the Celtics. A lot of the knocks of him that you hear is that he hasn't spent a lot of time at point guard. He's not as much of a ball handler and a passer as you might want from a point guard, but that's fine because the Celtics don't need him to play a lot of point guard. That's not really a huge need for them. And I think that they really need some guys that can shoot. They've been playing a lot of Avery Bradley at the 2, and which is where they probably play Jamal Murray. And he's done well to develop his jump shot into something useful, but he's not nearly the offensive player that Jamal Murray is. And just in terms of being like a quality 2 guard who can just come out and knock down shots, he's probably never going to be a superstar, but he has a really high floor, in my opinion, and he could possibly grow into a really special player, and I think he's exactly what the Celtics are looking for.
So those people that don't think Jamal Murray can handle the ball and be a point guard and distribute, all you have to do is go to YouTube, type in 2015 Pan American Games, and watch the gold medal game with Canada against United States, and Jamal Murray literally looked like the next Chris Paul with a better scoring ability. He absolutely dominated USA, completely took it to him. Melo Trimble is one of the guards on USA, got embarrassed, like really badly, by Jamal Murray. Denzel Valentine was on that team too. Jamal Murray is the next best player behind Simmons and Ingram. I have no doubt in my mind about that. He came into college being a playmaking guard, and he turned into a great jump shooter. So now he has two facets of his game that is exactly what you want your guard to have. I see him going to Boston. I also have going to Boston third. I could see that team, let's just say they keep Avery Bradley starting at the 2 and have Crowder and Thomas also in there. I could see Jamal Murray coming in off the bench, playing like the Evan Turner kind of role where he primary ball handler and also will be able to score more than Evan Turner because I think they're going to lose him in free agency. So I think he's going to fit the need perfectly. And I'm very high on Jamal Murray. I love his game. This is honestly probably the first player from Kentucky I've ever actually said is good because I think Calipari sucks, and that's well documented. But I love Jamal Murray. I think he has got a great game. And with Brad Stevens and Isaiah Thomas and those boys in Boston, this could be a really scary team with Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I agree.
So then Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's not an awesome defender.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the knock on Jamal Murray, but
I think it's because he's not that athletic.
Right, he's not a great athlete. The NBA comparison I have in front of me is Ben Gordon, which I think is a little bit unkind. I think he's going to be better than that.
Right.
But on defense, he might not be better than that, which is fine. Like, especially the Celtics system, I have faith in Brad Stevens. I think he's one of the 3 best coaches in the NBA. Like, I think that he will be able to make a situation where Jamal Murray will thrive, and I think that he has the ability and the basketball IQ to develop his defense, and I think that he will do that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to number 4 now. Phoenix Suns. I have them picking Dragan Bender, who has been playing on Maccabi Tel Aviv. Playing being an operative word there because he averages like 4 minutes a game just because they don't play teenagers over there. But he's been noted to be basically Kristaps Porzingis 2.0, but already ahead offensively of where he was last year. Kristaps, that is. I think the comparison is pretty perfect. They have Bender listed at 7'1", 225. He's still so young, and I don't personally think he's going to come to America this year to play. I could see probably the year after, maybe even 2 years after. So I don't really personally like the pick for Phoenix just because I was just telling Jonah this. If you're in the top 10, obviously minus Boston and minus Toronto, it's most likely because you're not that great. Like, you didn't make the playoffs probably. So to take a player who might not help you right away is a little bit of a stretch for me. But the game that Bender has, I think, fits Phoenix pretty well. And Phoenix has always been known to take interesting draft picks that generally work out because they draft for their system probably more than any other team. And I really like what Earl Watson's doing down there. Over there, that is. So, yeah, I think Bender could be okay there. He's like the only international player I think has any ability whatsoever. And I really don't think he's that great, but I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly got the size. Like, and I think the Porzingis comparison is good. And being a Knicks fan, I've seen a lot of Porzingis, and if he can be at least an approximation of what Porzingis is, that's going to be very helpful for Phoenix. They're a better team than they played this past year. Like, they have the 4th pick in this draft, but they're better at that talent level. They had a lot of injuries last year. So I think that he's a risk, but I think he's a risk worth taking. I think he has a relatively high floor for an international prospect. And I don't think he's going to be a Darko Milicic style bust. I believe in him. I think. I can put it.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's hard to. I mean, we don't get to see him ever. Like, we've seen Jamal Murray, we've seen Brandon Ingram, we've seen Ben Simmons. We see all these players all the time. Jonah and I watch more college basketball than probably anyone on this planet. So we know, like, we've seen all these guys play at least 5 times. And Bender is someone I've never seen play. I've seen his brother play at Maryland, but that's not him, obviously. So we can't really say 100% what we think about him because we haven't had a chance to see much of him. We don't obviously own film like the scouts do, but I mean,
we're a little bit less informed than
yeah. But body type and scoring ability combined, that's pretty dangerous. So why not take a shot?
Yeah, I agree.
Number 5.
At number 5 for Minnesota, who is a rising team in my opinion. I think they have a good shot at making the playoffs next year. So, based on that evaluation of the team, I'm going to take Buddy Hield at number 5 here. I think that he's a guy who can help a team that wants to contend right away. He's the best pure scorer in this draft, I believe. He was the best pure scorer in college basketball this year. He averaged 25 points a game, which is not something you see a lot in college basketball.
Against Big 12 teams, too. It's not no joke conference.
Yeah, it's not like he was, playing for Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Shot at Gonzaga. That's not the first shot at Gonzaga I've made. It won't be the last. Yeah, I mean, he was a really transcendent offensive player against really tough competition. He took Oklahoma all the way to their Final Four. And I think that he's exactly what this Minnesota team needs. Just a pure scorer. That's not something they really have in spades right now. I mean, they have a lot of solid players. They have Towns, who's a good scorer, but he's a post player. They have Andrew Wiggins. They have Zach LaVine. But these guys aren't really just guys who can put the ball in the net consistently over and over again. And I've been saying this a lot in this draft. There's a lot of high floor guys. There's not a lot of guys who you think are probably going to be superstars, but there's a lot of guys who project to be consistently solid players. And I think that Buddy Hield is one of those guys. I think he's a perfect fit on the Timberwolves, and that's why I'm going at number 5.
Yeah, I have the same pick at number 5. I've been talking a little bit about motor and like desire to want to be the best and be able to work at your craft. And Buddy Hield has shown that more than anyone else in this draft over the last couple of years. He came back to college after his junior year to get a better jump shot, more consistent jump shot, be able to handle the ball a little bit better. And he improved drastically in all those areas, which led him to be the best scorer in college and pretty much an unguardable player. So I think he's perfect. Minnesota desperately needs scoring in their really anywhere. I mean, Towns is an okay scorer as a big, but they still need scoring there. They need scoring in their guards. I think Zach LaVine's probably their best scorer behind Towns. So if you plug Buddy Hield in at the 2, he becomes instant offense. Wiggins is good enough defender that he can make up for Buddy Hield's lapse in defense. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think he's exactly what they need. Like I said, I think with someone like Buddy on that team, I think they're definitely equipped to make a playoff run next year, even in that Western Conference. I've kind of been predicting the Timberwolves to make the playoffs like every year for the last 4 years, so I'm going to keep predicting it until it happens. But I think that he's a step in the right direction to make that happen for them. He was one of my favorite players in college basketball this past year.
Yeah, if they do pick him, I'll be right on the bandwagon with you to make the playoffs. And even without him, I still think they can possibly get an 8 seed or a 7 seed, so we'll watch out for that. But that takes us to number 6 with the Pelicans. And this is the player I'm about to pick is someone that I think is probably the best fit for a team in this draft. I know Buddy Hield, we just said, was a great fit for the Timberwolves. Murray was a good fit for the Celtics. Ingram good for the Lakers, but Chris Dunn to the Pelicans is perfect for both parties. The Pelicans desperately need a point guard. They've had Tyreek Evans and Gordon basically sharing the role at point guard for the last 4 years now, and neither of them have ever really played point guard. They're kind of like LeBron James style, just handle the ball because they're good. And Chris Dunn is the best point guard in this class for sure. Pairing him with Anthony Davis in a pick and roll is like pretty scary to think about because Chris Dunn can score and he's also a great passer. Little pick and pop or pick and roll action with Anthony Davis won't hurt anybody except for the other team. So I think Chris Dunn is perfect for the Pelicans. 6'4" point guard, you don't really see that often, especially with his frame. And he's gotten better as a shooter throughout his career in college. So I look for him to continue that. And once he develops that, he's going to be pretty hard to stop.
Yeah, the other thing with Chris Dunn is that he's an excellent defender.
Yeah.
And I think the Pelicans have been lacking a bit on defense outside of Anthony Davis. That's just what happens when you're rolling out Tyreke Evans and Eric Gordon all the time. Like, that's not exactly a recipe for defensive success. So I think he can really help them on both sides of the ball. I think, like you said, this is an absolute dream for New Orleans to have Chris Dunn fall to them, and I think it's a perfect fit.
Yep. So that takes us to number 7 with the Denver Nuggets.
So I'll just mention that this pick originally belonged to my New York Knicks. So it makes me a little sad to be making this pick for someone else. But I am going for Denver with Marquise Chris here. I think they have a need of some more athleticism on that team, I think, and Marquise Chris certainly provides that. He's a raw player. He's not a guy I watched a lot in this past season because he was playing on the West Coast. He was playing for a team in Washington that was not much of a tournament team, but you could make an argument that he's the most athletic player in this draft. He's 6'10", 235, and he can jump all over the gym. He's a highlight waiting to happen. And he can shoot, he can dunk. He's a very explosive player, and that's something that Denver's been lacking in the last few years. So I think that's something they could look for. There's definite downsides with him. He only averaged 5.4 rebounds a game this past year at Washington, which for someone of his size and his athleticism, he should be averaging a lot more than that. So he's got to work on that part of his game, but I think that will come once he kind of matures a little bit. Like, he's certainly a raw player, but I think he's kind of a high-risk, high-reward prospect, and I think that's something that the Nuggets might want to go for here, and that's why I'm going to go with Marquise Chris at 7.
So, to note, the Knicks are selling NBA 2016 draft hats for $29.99. If you would like to purchase a hat for the lack thereof of a draft pick they're going to have, please visit their website and drop that $30 for no reason.
They have no draft picks.
So keep selling the hats. It'll help you out. Maybe you can buy a draft pick next year. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you can buy that online.
So Marquise Chris is a guy that, like Jonah said, we have not seen a lot of. It's rare that Washington is on TV, really, ever. I knew Nigel Williams-Goss a couple years ago, and he transferred, so I really don't know many players in Washington. But looking at what Chris has done, like Jonah said, very athletic, and I think that Denver team is a team that basically just keeps adding athleticism with Kenneth Faried and Wilson Chandler's pretty athletic. Gallinari's not bad. Who's their two guard? Help.
Well, Wilson Chandler doesn't.
Gary Harris.
Right.
There we go. So I like him a lot from Michigan State. And then I have Jaylen Brown going here because I think he fits the mold of a Nuggets player pretty well. But Marquise Chris is the same mold, really. They're both athletic and have some upside. Seems like the Nuggets generally draft the most athletic player with some potential, a la Kenneth Faried. So I could really see either player. Jaylen Brown is probably more highly rated, and since he's still on my board, that's why I have him going there. Jonah hates Jaylen Brown a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. The Nuggets, never really make splashes in the draft, so to speak, but they always draft well with a player that will fit what they want to do. So
I mean, Barry Harris is an example of that.
exactly, yeah. So I would definitely expect either one of these players to go to the Nuggets, and that'll fit the system perfectly, and it'll help them big time. So we'll go to the Kings at number 8.
If I could just say one more thing about the Nuggets.
Yeah.
They've had success with this type of player. They had a lot of success with Jokic, who was a similarly raw guy, and he has looked very good so far in his career. So I think that might sort of embolden them to pick a similar kind of player again.
Yeah, the only reason I went away from Chris there is because they have about 15 centers, and they can only play one of them, obviously. And I know Chris is a power forward, but they have many big guys.
Yeah.
So let's go to the Kings at number 8. This is a player that Jonah and I both have with Domantas Sabonis from Gonzaga. Jonah and I both hate Gonzaga as well because they play no one and end up as a 1 or 2 seed in the tournament all the time, which just really pisses me off. But he's a 6'11" power forward. He's going to play power forward. He's not a true center by any stretch of the imagination. Great rebounder. Developed a really solid mid-range jumper his senior year at Gonzaga. Really good post player. Can make a lot of moves. Likes to give you a little power dribble and then a little hook shot over the right shoulder. He's a lefty. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's kind of like a sneaky athletic person, like one of those guys in rec basketball. You'd be like, "Oh, I'll guard him because he doesn't look that good," and then you play him and he drops like 50 on you. He's kind of got that vibe. So I think he can really help the team. I hate Willie Cauley-Stein playing power forward for the Kings. I think that's pathetic. And then when they go small, they go with Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay is a true small forward, so this is going to alleviate that and have... I mean, now you're starting to look at... Say they re-sign Rondo. You'll have Rondo, Ben McLemore, Sabonis, Rudy Gay, DeMarcus Cousins. That team starts to look better and better.
Right, and I think he's also... if he goes to Sacramento... he's in some ways insurance if they decide not to keep DeMarcus Cousins around.
Right.
Which is something they might decide to do. He gives me kind of a Marc Gasol vibe. Just a pretty big man.
Yeah.
He doesn't do all the things that Marc Gasol does. He's not a great jump shooter, at least not yet. But the fact that he's a good free throw shooter suggests that, like, it's possible that he could improve his mid-range game. So I think that's something that could be coming. He absolutely wiped the floor with Jakob Poeltl in their NCAA tournament matchup, and I think that's indicative of just how solid all-around player he is. And I think he'd be a great pick for Sacramento.
Yeah, I would agree.
So going to number 9 to the Raptors, I know I just trashed on him a little bit, but I'm gonna go with Jakob Poeltl here.
Whoa.
I know I said that I didn't want to pick him, but I think he's actually a pretty good fit for the Raptors here. They're not sure really what they have with Valanciunas, and I think they'd be willing to try to go somewhere else. He obviously put up huge numbers in college, like eye-popping numbers. 17-9 is pretty good at Utah. He reminds a lot of people of Andrew Bogut, who is also a former who played at Utah. And I think that's a pretty good comparison for him. He can really run the floor like you don't really see with guys his size. I think probably the knock on him is he has a low ceiling. And that's the way I feel about him also. Like, he's got a good attitude, he's coachable, but, like, I don't know if he's really going to be able to translate that to a higher level. But at the same time, I think that you kind of know what you're getting out of him. He has a high floor, like I've been saying with a lot of guys in this draft. He's got big hands. He knows, like, a good post move when he sees one. Like, he is, I don't know, he's got good instincts, I think. And I don't love him as a player, but I could really see the Raptors going with him. And, yeah, that's where I'm going at number 9.
Yeah, for pretty much all week long, all pre-draft season, I've had Poeltl as the number 1 rated big. Probably, I think late last week I switched it to Sabonis to be the number 1 big. That's not including Bender because obviously I have him going 4th, but I don't really count him because he's an international player. So I like Podol a lot. I've liked Podol pretty much his entire college career until he beat Duke in the Garden last year, which really got to me. But he's a pretty good rebounder, as Jonas said, 17 and 9. That's really not bad at all for a college sophomore. And he's developed a really good offensive game as well. Duke played Utah his freshman year in the NCAA tournament, and he was like non-existent. He had like probably 10 points, 5 rebounds, or something like that. And then we played him, like I said, in the Garden last year, and he had like 20 and 15, and was like absolutely impossible to cover. So that just kind of shows you how much better he got just in those 2 games. I think he's going to be a good player for sure. I don't know that he's going to go to the Raptors only because they just signed Valanciunas to that contract, I think, last year. So they're expecting him to be there for a little bit. I have Wade Baldwin, the 4th from Vandy, going to the Raptors. I think he's a pretty solid player too. But I like both those players a lot. So really, the Raptors are a team like the Celtics, where I think they're just going to look for either the best player on the board or a position of need and select the best player at that position because they're playoff teams. They're only going to get better. Hopefully don't lose DeMar DeRozan, and really either way they're going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might have somewhat of a fear of losing Bismack Biyombo and possibly look for another big guy to go along with Valanciunas.
Right.
So that's some of the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to lose Biyombo. They don't have the money to sign him to a max deal, nor should they really.
Yeah, I mean, I said, like, even during the preview podcast for the NCAA tournament a few months ago, like, I've never been a huge fan of Pirtles.
Yeah.
But he has prototype size, and if he can continue coaching, I think that he could develop into a solid player.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to go to number 10 with Milwaukee. Let's see. I have Denzel Valentine going to Milwaukee. I was thinking about switching that to Baldwin since I had him going 9th, but we'll stick with Valentine. I think the Bucks really need a playmaker off the bench because Giannis, the Greek Freak, he'll play point guard probably next year since they put him in that role second half of the year, and he pretty much dominated in it. He was probably a top 6 or 7 point guard the second half of the season, so that looks great for them. I like Jabari a lot. Greg Monroe kind of killed them, and I expect him to be gone. But they have pieces. Chris Middleton's a good shooter. So I think Valentine coming off the bench could kind of do what I'm expecting Jamal Murray to do for the Celtics. They're good enough scorers, good enough shooters. Denzel Valentine has crazy experience from Michigan State, so that's going to help him. And I like everything he does. He can shoot, he can defend, he can rebound, he'll pass. He's a pass-first player. He's a LeBron James type where he's going to get other people involved before he gets himself involved. But if he's open, he's going to shoot it also. So I really am high on Denzel Valentine. I like everything he does. His athleticism scares me just a little bit in the NBA, but I think the way Jason Kidd wants to play, like if they can get back to how they played 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, Jason Kidd's first year, Denzel Valentine fits so perfectly into that scheme.
Yeah, I think that they could use someone with as much polish as Valentine has. I think like him and Jabari Parker together could be really interesting. I had Valentine going a few picks later because of concerns, like you said, with his athleticism. But I think that having someone as mature and polished as he is, he's younger than a lot of he's older than a lot of the guys on the Bucks who have more NBA experience than he does. So that's definitely a positive that you're going to get with Denzel Valentine. It's not necessarily a positional pick for them. I had Wade Baldwin going to Milwaukee, and I know you considered having him there also. I'm not going to argue with the Valentine pick. I think that's probably where I would have gone if not with Baldwin.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Orlando at number 11. And this is where I'm going to take Jaylen Brown off the board.
Whoa.
player in this draft.
Documented.
Made that pretty clear. I think he should have stayed in school for another year. He really has not much of a jump shot at all.
If you go back to our first podcast, you can hear Jonah basically try to fight back swear words when talking about Jaylen Brown's offensive game.
I know, but see how open-minded I'm being? Like, I picked Turtle and Jaylen Brown.
I know, after you told me you were never picking either of them, now you messed up my board.
Well, they were dropping a little farther than I expected you to have. So, yeah, I think he's a good pick for Orlando because I think they're in a position where they have, like, some talented young guys at a bunch of different positions, and they kind of are in a best player available spot, even though they are not a playoff team.
Yep.
And I think at this point, he's the best player available on the board. He's a great scorer despite not being a good jump shooter. Like, he can slash and cut to the basket like almost nobody else in this draft. And he can really finish at the rim, which is something that the Magic have kind of been lacking. Just like somebody who can get up in the backcourt. I know they have Aaron Gordon, but somebody like that. He reminds me a little bit of Jason Richardson. That's the comparison that I've seen. And I think that he definitely has his weaknesses, but they're probably fixable in my mind.
Yeah.
Which is why I think he should have stayed in school. Because I think that would have been the best place to fix them. But, barring that, I think I would not touch him in the top 5. I've seen some mock drafts having him as high as 3 and 4. I would not touch him that high.
Right.
But I think at 11, he makes sense for Orlando.
All right, take this with a very, very, very large grain of salt. But when you're just talking about comparisons, I see a lot of a young Dwayne Wade in him.
Yeah.
Not half as good. He will never be as anywhere near Dwayne Wade.
I know.
But the way that he plays is a young D Wade.
Yeah, right. I mean, they have similar skill sets, and especially in terms of coming out of college, Dwayne Wade could shoot it all.
Right.
I think the thing with Jaylen Brown is he should have stayed in school.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's especially when you see Ivan Rabb go back to school, if Jaylen Brown went back, Cal would probably start the season as a top 10 team.
And I don't even think Ivan Rabb necessarily needed to go back to school.
Yeah, he was the best player on the team, most NBA ready by far.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have been a top 10 pick in this draft.
Yes, he would have been the best big coming out, no problem.
But, yeah, I mean, I think Jaylen Brown has a lot of potential. He's an explosive type of player, and Orlando's been lacking that. And I don't think he falls further than that.
Yeah. So I have Demetrius Jackson going to the Orlando Magic right there. I don't really know why, to be honest with you. It was kind of like a gut decision. I think his fire is something that Orlando's looking for. Oladipo has never really been a true point guard, and I know they have Elfrid Payton, who really hasn't been what they thought he was going to be. And if you try to find another point guard on that roster, I know Brandon Jennings is there now, but he's older than dirt, really, and has struggled lately. So I think that they need another guard, and I think Demetrius Jackson is the next best point guard after Chris Dunn. I have him pretty close to Tyler Ulis, but I give Jackson the nod just a little bit because he's listed at 6'1", although I don't buy that for a second. Just his size will help him a little bit, but he's like the fiery, feisty competitor that I like a lot there. So I could easily see him going there, but again, like Jonah was just saying, Jaylen Brown, if you have him projected as high as 3rd in some drafts, he's probably not going to slide out of the top 10, so at 11, Orlando would probably be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
So next we have the Utah Jazz at number 12. The Jazz are a team that I like a lot because Rodney Hood is there, Dookie, obviously, and Gordon Hayward's very good. They really have a lot of talent on that team. Rudy Gobert is a pretty good big guy, and they get better, it seems like, every year. They're kind of trying to go after the Thunder system where they build through the draft and get better and better. You never really see anyone leave the team or come to the team through free agency. Paul Millsap obviously is the exception there. But, so I had Podol going here. A little surprised Jonah took him that early, but hey, he's a good center. So instead of picking him, I'm going to go with Malik Beasley out of Florida State.
Shooting guard, I have him going 13th to the Suns, so I'll just slide him up one. I think that at times the Suns struggled with guard play, mainly when Burke was down. They had Joe Ingles playing a lot, who I think is someone that should be like probably on the streets, not even playing basketball. No disrespect, I just don't think he's talented at all. So Beasley's a very skilled player. He's a playmaker for sure. Likes the ball in his hands a little bit more than probably Utah would like, but I think he'll fit the need for them, and I think he's going to be a player that has a pretty high ceiling and develops really well.
Yeah, I had Henry Allenson going to Utah here, but
That's a good one.
I'm not with the Malik Beasley pick. I think a lot of what you said about his fit in Utah makes a lot of sense. They're a team that needs some more athleticism, like you said. They don't really want to be running Joe Ingles out there a whole lot, and they've been kind of forced to do that. And if you're a team that wants to make the playoffs in the Western Conference, you got to have a little bit more than that.
Yeah, like their backup guards are like Raul Nato and Ingles, and I don't really like that at all.
Yeah, me neither. So, like, you're going to need somebody else to go with Rodney Hood and Trey Burke and possibly Dante Exum. And I think that Beasley fits that bill.
Right.
So at 13 for Phoenix again, this is their second pick of the lottery. I originally had Denzel Valentine going here. He's off the board now. So I'm going to pick Henry Allenson here. I think that in this situation, they already have Dragan Bender, so this will be their second power forward of this draft. But I think it's a big enough need for them that it still makes sense. And you got to figure with those guys, there's a good chance that one of them's not going to pan out. And if you have two of those guys, you're pretty much guaranteed to have at least one solid NBA power forward. And I think they're a team, like we've talked about with Phoenix, that has underachieved. And so it might not take a huge piece for them to make a playoff push. And I think that Allenson is a pretty complete, another high floor player. He doesn't do a ton of different things, and he's not very athletic, which are the knocks on him. But he can knock down shots. He's a very smooth player. He was always very productive in college at Marquette. I didn't watch a whole lot of Marquette this season because they weren't such a good team. But he averaged 17 and 10 there. A lot of mock drafts have had him higher than this, so I think Phoenix will be pleased to see him drop here. And I think he fits in their system well, and I think if they got both Bender and Allenson out of this draft, I think they'd feel good about having a solution at power forward.
Yeah, so to make a note, we're doing this without really predicting any trades happening. So, like, in the terms of Boston with 3 first-round picks and Phoenix with a couple and the Sixers with a couple, there's a pretty good chance that those teams are going to move around a little bit. So I actually think this would be a pick that would be traded from Phoenix, but we're just drafting like it's still there. And if it is still there, Ellison's a perfect pick. I had to talk Jonah into liking him a little bit last night because I'm pretty high on him and Jonah wasn't feeling too great about him. I've pretty much used Pau Gasol as a comparison to like 4 of the big guys in this draft, and I'm going to do it again because I think Ellison's a lot like that. He has better ball handling than Pau, but he's another Anthony Davis type guy where you start out as a guard and then develop into a big guy once you grow, which I think is huge for bigs in today's NBA. His jumper is there. It's going to get better. He can hit the 3. He needs to develop a better post game to be an NBA center, I think. I don't want him to get stuck in that Serge Ibaka style where you just stand at the 3-point line once you have a 3-point shot. So I'd like to see him get better in the post and feel more comfortable there. But he's a playmaking big, which I like a lot for this NBA. I have him going a little bit later at 16 to the Celtics, which I think would be a steal for Boston. So anywhere in those early to late teens, I could see him going. And he's a great player, so he's going to help a team big time. I think he's another player that could have benefited from one more year in college. I think he would have been probably easily a top 10 pick in another year in college. But he came out, and there's a lot of money on the line for him, so I'm not going to fault him for that. But if Jonah has nothing else, we're going to go to the Bulls at 14.
Yeah, I'm curious who you have here.
wait till you hear me what I say. Let's just say I've seen this player play frequently. I have Diamond Stone going to the Bulls at 14.
Wow.
This pick is being made with the expectation that Pau Gasol will no longer be on the Bulls. He has a player option, which I fully expect him to decline and probably leave. I think Diamond Stone, here we go again, could be like Pau Gasol. No kidding. That's why they probably draft him. So his claim is that he wasn't allowed to be a pick and pop player at Maryland, which is why he never showed his jump shot. And from witnessing, he at one game in warmups, I watched him hit 14 threes in a row. Obviously, it's warmups; he's not being guarded. It's not a game. Blah blah blah. But it obviously shows he has the jumper. And I've heard from a couple of people I know that he won a 3-point contest in practice with all the players, and Maryland has some good 3-point shooters. So for that to happen shows he obviously is better than just an average shooter. So you add that to his dominant post game at Maryland, and that he's only 19 years old and 6'11", 255, and as freak athletic as he is, I think that's a recipe for a great NBA center. Again, another player I wish went back to college, not because of my personal bias, but because it would have helped him a lot, I think. But I really think Diamond Stone is going to be a very good NBA player. He's a little bit immature and needs to develop and work harder, but I think he will do that, and I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's sort of a polarizing player. I agree with you that he probably would have benefited from some more time in school. I see him as more of a Kendrick Perkins type than as a Pau Gasol type. That might be a little bit pessimistic.
I was going to say, Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason that a lot of mock drafts don't have him this high. And I'm going to go through a couple of those reasons. I think he's not a great athlete.
Right.
He has a lot of skills. There's no doubt about that. He's got a lot of great post moves. He's an underrated jump shooter. He can get rebounds in traffic. There's a lot of things he can do. There's no doubt about that. But he's not like a stud athlete, and he's from the scouting report I'm looking at right here. His attitude is at best immature.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah.
So I think that's a concern for a lot of teams. I think that's why a lot of guys fall in the draft, and a lot of guys that fall in the draft for that reason end up making teams regret it, and there's no doubt about that. But I think there's a lot of reason for these concerns. It's not just his outburst, he lost school against Wisconsin. It's not just that. He can have a really high motor or not much of a motor depending on the game. So he can kind of drift through possessions and drift through whole games sometimes, and teams don't really like to see that. So obviously you tolerate it if it's somebody with the talent of, or with talent and athleticism of somebody like DeMarcus Cousins. You tolerate stuff.
Oh yeah, you have to.
But I don't see the talent of DeMarcus Cousins in Diamond Stone, at least not yet.
Right.
So it'd be a risky pick. It'd be a pick that a team like the Bulls might be able to afford to make. But if they wanted to go center, to me, I would probably rather go Deontay Davis there.
Yeah, you see, the reason I didn't go Deontay Davis is because he's a freshman and he didn't have a role whatsoever at Michigan State. He's kind of someone that, if you're not a diehard fan, you'd basically watch the season, watch some games, come into this draft and be like, wait, who? I watched a lot of basketball games, and Michigan State is in the Big Ten. I watched them play Maryland, and I see this name, Deontay Davis, is coming out to go into the NBA draft. I'm like, wait a minute, who is Deontay Davis, and how many points do he have against Maryland? So it's when you talk about not being polished, he's probably the least polished player in this draft. I really don't even think that's much of a stretch, and I think that everything you said about Diamond Stone is 100% right. He's got a big time lack of motor. He even got benched for a majority of the beginning of the season. It took all of a 39-12 outburst against Penn State off the bench to put him back in the starting lineup, but it was very well deserved that he was not in the starting lineup because he's kind of a punk. But
I don't know. I think his ability as a big and the way that the Bulls could use a big in this situation, I think it fits pretty well. But this is the part in the draft where it's kind of like a free-for-all. Like, you could throw any name in this slot and any name in any of these slots, really, and argue your case. So, I don't know. I didn't really even like Diamond Stone for a lot of the season because I use a punk, like I said, but I think he's going to be a good NBA player.
I mean, the guy I originally had, or the guy I would have had at 14 probably is Wade Baldwin, like, not even go center at all. Just because, like, in this mock draft, he's not off the board yet.
Yeah, they need a point guard, too, so that works.
And they're going to want to plan for, like, whatever happens to Derrick Rose.
Yeah, when he goes to the Knicks and gets, like, a stupid amount of money and probably tears his other ACL, and you know how you guys work.
But I'm really excited for that to happen. But, yeah, I mean, there's concerns with Baldwin, whether he can stick at point guard. So, like, I understand why, I don't know, I could see him slipping out of the lottery. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
Yeah.
But that's who I would have probably had at 14. But, yeah, it's certainly an interesting pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very high on Baldwin, too. Like we said earlier, I would have had him going 9, so that's someone I'm pretty high on. Jonah likes him a little bit, too. But in these last couple of minutes, we're going to just talk about probably 2 players each that we like that are going to definitely going to be outside the lottery.
Yes, if you want to talk about, for each of us, one who will be just outside the lottery that we, like, just didn't pick, and one who's, like, a little bit deeper in the draft.
Sure, yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, so my guy who I think will be close-ish to the lottery but not be picked in the lottery is my man Bryce Johnson.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because I freaking hate Bryce Johnson.
I've been talking about Bryce Johnson since back in the days of the NCAA tournament. I'm a huge Bryce Johnson fan. I think he's like a prototypical NBA power forward. He was probably the best pure rebounder in college basketball last year, in my opinion. I don't think that he's going to go that high because there's concerns about whether he can really be a back-to-the-basket player at the next level. He's not a great shooter. But I think he can really turn into a Taj Gibson type. And that's not nothing. Like, I think a lot of teams could use somebody like that. I think he's being a little bit underrated. Just because I think he's so much more of a complete player than a lot of the other power forwards that are being talked about picked higher than him. Like, it makes no sense to me why you pick Shaq Diallo over Bryce Johnson, for example. Like, I don't understand why anybody would do that. And I know I'm just kind of being a UNC homer here a little bit. But, I don't know, Bryce Johnson has the size, the scoring instincts, and above all the rebounding and the athleticism to be a really good NBA power forward. And I think whichever team picks him will not regret it.
Yeah. I will do you one better than Taj Gibson and give you Tristan Thompson. I think that's like basically the exact player Bryce Johnson will be.
Yeah.
I am not as high as Jonah is. I have him on my big board. I have him 26th, which is still a first-round pick, obviously. I fully expect him to be a first-round pick. With the senior year he had, he definitely deserves it. But I am very afraid of his offensive game. Obviously, Tristan Thompson is an $84 million player and could easily have 20 and 20 every night. And I know for a fact LeBron James will be the first in line to tell you he's one of the most important players on the Cavs team. So any team can use a player like that, and Bryce Johnson can definitely help a team. I think if he can go to a playoff team, which is what's probably projected, he can help immediately. So I like that a lot. I have to go with a player for myself that terrorized me all year long, and it took me a long time to like talk myself into liking this player just because of where he went to school, and I think Jonah knows where I'm going with this. But Malachi Richardson, I talked about him in the NCAA tournament podcast, saying that I think he could improve his stock the most in the Final Four, and obviously getting to the Final Four and playing the way he did, he improved his stock. The kid is an absolute assassin, great jump shot. I think he can develop into a player that can get to the rim pretty much at ease with his 6'6" body. I love Malachi Richardson. I think he's going to be a very, very, very good NBA player, and he's projected late in the first round, and that's an absolute steal in my opinion. I have him going 21st to the Hawks, which I think is a really good fit for both sides. And I think Malachi Richardson will be a very good player in the NBA.
I see him just outside the lottery. I had him going 17 to Memphis, which I think would also be a good fit for him. But I think to take that Syracuse team all the way to where he got them, I think just shows how good he was, because that wasn't a super talented Syracuse team.
Yeah.
We obviously talked a lot about how we didn't like the Syracuse team, and Malachi really rubbed it in our faces, and I think he will be able to do that in the NBA as well. So to go a little bit farther down the draft board, I'm going to talk about Tyler Ulis. He is a very small guy. That's the biggest issue with him. Like, he's listed at 5'10", 150. Like, he's not a big dude. And, yeah, to be listed that small probably means you're even smaller. But he's proven himself to be a great leader at Kentucky. He's a true floor general. And I think probably he's a backup point guard in the NBA. Like, I don't think that he's going to be more than that, but I think he's going to be a solid guy off the bench for somebody. If he goes to a team with an established point guard, I've seen him in mock drafts to the Clippers before, which I love. Like, I think that would be the absolute best situation for him to be born from Chris Paul. And again, he's small. That's an issue. Like, it's not just the thing that people overrate. Like, it's a legitimate thing to have someone that small is possibly a problem and a limit to the ceiling. Which is why I think he would only be a backup, but I think he'd be one of the best backup point guards in the league. He could really help a playoff team. If he could just come in, he's got great heart and great motor and can really push the tempo and find guys for passes, for buckets. Like, I know he really showed he could do that at Kentucky in kind of like a mini NBA system that they run, because basically that school is just an NBA training camp. So I think that Tyler Ulis is really going to help somebody out.
Yeah, so another small point guard I like is Kay Felder from Oakland at 5'9". I'm not going to talk about him, though. I'm going to talk about... who am I going to talk about? I guess I'll talk about Ben Bentel from Providence. He declared early, went to the NBA Combine as a mid-second round pick, played his way into the first round, no doubt about it. Has a great jump shot. He had a couple 40-point games for Providence. Obviously, a lot of that is because Chris Dunn was the focus of defenses, but still, to score 40 is scoring 40. It's difficult. I really like him in the NBA as a pick and roll, pick and pop 4-man. He's athletic enough that he can play some solid defense and also can play with his back to the basket. I have him just ahead of Rob Carter, who I've said many times I like a lot. So it's between those two guys for me as who's going to be the biggest steal of the first round at the end. I'll go with Bentel just because I think he has a slightly more polished offensive game and is a little bit more athletic. So I think that if he went to, my ideal situation for him is to go to the Warriors, because I think if they use that small ball lineup, they could throw him in there with Draymond Green and Iggy and Clay and Steph, and that's like the most nightmarish offensive team you could ever really imagine of guarding. The only difference is if they added KD instead of Iggy, that's just ridiculous. So that's a player I like a lot. But really, it seems like the end of this draft, the deeper you go into the draft, the more players there are that are household names in college. You think of like an A.J. Hammonds from Purdue or Wayne Selden from Kansas, Benajay from Cuse. Like, the farther you go, the more players you find. And I think that could help teams because there's a lot of experience at the end of this draft. Georges Niang, Perry Ellis, that will step into a team and help them because they're all seniors pretty much. But there are also a lot of fear of athleticism with a lot of those players I just named, like a Marcus Page, like a Perry Ellis, like a Georges Niang. So I think that if you watch second round of this draft, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh yeah. In the first round, it's going to be like, oh, this person has a crazy upside, but he didn't do much in college. So the NBA draft is always weird because it's not necessarily the most talented player that's always picked, because college and NBA is so different. So it's a lot of like, does this person have NBA body? What's the upside? What's the potential? So that's what you're going to see here. And we don't think this is a very. I guess it's not a very talented draft, but it's also a safe draft. I think you're going to find a player that can help your team pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is part of what's going to make next season in the NBA great, as we've been saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately after Thursday's over, sports really winds down. We just have baseball left, really, Copa America and the Euro, but...
Yeah, just until preseason NFL gears up.
Which is going to be such a great time to be alive.
Yeah, but until then, it's going to be a little slow, but we'll manage.
Yeah, we'll fabricate some stories or something.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll do this podcast. We'll be back next week, and let's just hope something happens in sports.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for listening, and continue to share the podcast.
Thank everyone for listening.